We're gonna give you the best progression that you can use to help your athletes execute single leg squats, and we're gonna start right now. Now, when coaching at the Olympics, when coaching at multiple different world championships, when getting athletes to the NFL to become NCAA All-Americans, the most important thing that I have seen between the best of the best is that those athletes tend to have the greatest level of unilateral strength. Okay, that tends to transfer very well to sport specificity, whatever that means. When we see that, that tends to be one of the light bulbs that goes off. Is like, yo, this kid can single leg squat really well. Okay, they can do single leg bounds really well. And that's what transfers so well to things like locomotion and other activities that end up showing that someone has a tremendous amount of coordination that transfers over to the field or the court, wherever sport they're playing. So we want to give you this progression. Now, when we talk about single leg squats to me is when you have your back foot up on a roller and you are touching your knee to the pad. Okay, there's a designated range of motion that is based off of your tibia, and the length of your tibia determines how far you can go, and then how far forward that foot is or how close to the pad the foot is will determine where we're trying to target. If we're doing a Bulgarian squat, you would be doing something with like your back foot up on a bench and there's no target. It's not safe, it's not practical. So I did want to bring that up. And of course, head over to garagestrength.com to pick up a single leg roller and pad. Now, I want to start off with this progression. Something super easy, just like a split squat here. And we don't even have to do this crazy split squat where we go super forward here. Just a little split squat where we're in position, come down, almost touch your knee, or I just did touch my knee, and that's okay. You're not going to die if you do that. Just right here, okay? Now, if I have an athlete, okay, if I'm training an athlete in an actual training session, we actually train athletes every single day. What we might do is this might be part of our actual warm-up. You've seen our garage strength warm-ups, right? This is typically in there. One thing we can do with a younger kid, if they're struggling just with that movement, get a little bit of assistance. All you have to do is hold on to a bar, hold on to a post, some type of immovable object, okay? And they can just get in position here and go. And that's okay, and it might be 2, 3, 4 weeks before they get off of that. The way I determine this is if I have someone doing a split squat, okay, and they're falling like side to side, and you see more than 2 movements in one set, we've got issues. And oftentimes, and this is more so the male gender than the female gender, the male gender will almost always say, it's not the weight, it's my balance. If it's your balance, it's the weight, okay? We need to execute as well as possible. And in this case, it's your trunk control and it's the stability that you have based off your body weight. Moving from that point, okay, we have the split squats. Another really good progression point to build into the single leg squat is being able to execute a walking lunge by coming forward and by coming backwards, okay, in one push. Okay, so a lot of younger kids, if they're doing a walking lunge, they might step and then they sort of go like this and they put that foot down early. I want to see a step forward like that, and in the same set, a step backwards without falling over. Ideally, they go one step at a time and they're able to cycle through, because typically what we see when that occurs, they are now able to execute or get closer to executing that single leg squat. Okay, so we'll do a split squat. Then we'll do a lunge, like a walking lunge, a backward lunge. And in the same session, we'll come over and they'll do an assisted single leg squat. So they're here, and I just want them to get comfortable here. Because oftentimes, younger athletes, they'll be unbalanced here. They don't know how to have a real stable ankle yet. Okay, so that's a real key concept, is that when their ankle is more stable, when they can grab more from the foot, they have more balance. Now, I have zero issue, because another thing is they'll also complain about their quad tightness or a hip tightness, depending upon their age. With them doing a movement, I have no issue with them doing a movement just like this. This is gonna help them learn a little bit quicker. The next thing that we can do is come over and we can do a weighted lunge like this. Here, oh. And they can even go like this, okay? a walking lunge. That was a little hard for me to pull off. A walking lunge where they just alternate the dumbbell. Then the next thing off of that point. Okay, so we did that walking lunge with the dumbbell there. Now we hold this a little bit higher. It's harder because they can't really see as well. Here, they go walking lunge like that. Okay, so that's the next progression point. Then we would come over to the single leg squat. So they do a loaded split squat or a loaded lunge that's walking. Then they come over the single leg squat, and now they're here with no weight, no assistance. Okay? Here. So they're doing a split squat, a lunge, assisted. Then a loaded split squat or a loaded lunge or a loaded walking lunge, then unassisted here. Okay? Then the next step is, let's say you do 2 or 3 sets of that. Let's say, pretend that that's on a Monday, and you end up having like 3 to 6 total sets. That's perfectly fine. Up to 8 to 10 sets in one session, that's fine. We want them to learn the neuromuscular control for the single leg squat. And the whole point here is that the single leg squat has a huge transfer to sports performance. It has a huge transfer to stability, to mobility, to core strength, that trunk control. So we want them to learn this as fast as possible, because the sooner we can start to load this exercise, the greater their ceiling becomes as an athlete. So the whole goal is within 4, 8, 12, 16 weeks, build them to be able to do that single leg squat. Now, after we go through those progressions, that was a Monday, right? That was a Monday that they got to the point where they could do this unassisted, just body weight. Thursday or Friday, if they're coming back in the same week, we want them to do legs again. Everybody's training 4 to 5 days a week, and we might start with just 1 set of the split squat, 1 set of the lunge. Then we get into right away, okay, let's see your single leg squat. Right here, now they're doing it unassisted. Okay, so they do single leg squat unassisted. So in the same week, if they're making good advancement, okay, the next thing that they'll do is they'll hold the weight here with this out, and they go like this. Okay, and they switch. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, then the next set, goblet. Okay, boom, boom. Okay, so we're going through, and now in that same week, they work to actually executing a loaded single leg squat in the goblet position. Then over time, I want to put out this rule. If you have one of the kids that says, it's not the weight, it's my balance, tell them this rule. When we do a single leg squat, you can't do this more than 1 time in a set. You get 1 foot down. If you do that twice in a set, the set's terminated, we're reloading, we're decreasing the weight, we're taking weight off the bar, or we're removing weight in general. So that's gotta be the rule of thumb from the beginning. If you put your foot down twice, you're not strong enough yet. Okay, that's just the way it is. We'll get you strong enough, we'll get back to that point. So then you go the dumbbells, then you can go 2 dumbbells, and you go goblet. Then the next thing would be you work towards a barbell on your back. So you could start with just an unloaded barbell. This is where we will see with athletes that you will need to do 1 set unweighted, 1 set with a barbell. 1 set unweighted, 1 set with a barbell. Remember that early on in someone's improvements in their coordination, a lot of this is neuromuscular for the first like 6 to 12 weeks of a new exercise. So they just need the patterning. They need to get comfortable with that. And remember, when we're building out a program, especially a program inside of Peak Strength, we are gonna be using single leg squats all of the time. And if you need some type of programming help, if you're a coach that needs help, or if you're an athlete and you want to get better at single leg squats, go to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store or the Apple iOS Store. You can download Peak Strength and you will get single leg squats. Now, the big factor here is that over the span of 16, 20, 24, 28, 32 weeks, we want to keep chipping away at an exercise like this because it is so valuable. We will spend a lot of time on these exercises. 5, 6, 7 sets, once a week, twice a week. A lot of programming goes into these specific exercises. And then, as you work through week 24, week 28, week 30, that's when you start to see, okay, let's do a weighted single leg squat here. 1, 2, 3, okay? 1, 2, 3, okay? So you can do that. Whoa. And then The last point of this progression, this is 100% the hardest, at least for beginners. We do use things like safety bar, single leg squats, safety bar, single leg front squats, but that's way more advanced. This is the most advanced version of the single leg squat, and you would end up doing this, let's say like week 28 to week 32, okay? So that's the other thing, is that inside peak strength is we're gonna have progressions periodized throughout, sprinkled in and out, based off of the experience that we have here with high school kids, with collegiate athletes, professional athletes, all putting them through this effective mode of periodization. So might get here, 1, 2, and this is the most challenging one. 1, 2. Okay, I did just want to throw out there too, a lot of coaches will be like, oh, do things backwards, do things backwards. Yes, do things backwards. Single leg squat in the front rack is like doing things backwards on steroids, because you can't see the pad, you have to feel everything. Your brain is way more dialed in on what that intent is. But use these progressions with athletes, with yourself, bounce back and forth. Progressions, in my opinion, based off the experience here, based off all the All-Americans, the Olympians, all the professional athletes that we've had, progressions are about pinballing back and forth, okay? Pinball back and forth. Don't just have some linear progression. That works very rarely. I always want to go to the main movement, do it assisted, go back. Do a couple other progressions, then work to the main movement with a little bit of load. Work back and forth consistently. That's going to help you execute this movement as well as possible. Head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store. Download Peak Strength today, because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.